First here, in the middle of the session, I may ask you to open your video just for documentation purposes. Okay. Why do we need to understand the changes happening to the mother during pregnancy? So it's an adaptation of the mother towards pregnancy. Um, you had a lecture on anatomy and bony pelvis last time. And here you will appreciate that the reproductive system was designed really for reproduction from the time of preparation of the endometrium, preparation of the egg, fertilization, or the process of fertilization, and in the whole course of the pregnancy and actual delivery. So you'll note that the anatomy was designed clearly for that. Okay. And that anatomy will eventually change and adapt because of the pregnancy. For what? For a successful pregnancy. The goal is a healthy mother and a healthy baby. So that's the goal. So let's look at the different changes that is happening on the body. Um, this is quite important because um, some of these changes might be misconstrued or interpreted as something abnormal given the same condition if the patient is not pregnant. So if the patient is not pregnant, then you would see there would be leukocytosis or an increase in WBC. You might say that this patient is having an infection, where in fact it's not, because it's a normal adaptation of the of the maternal body. Uh, I'd like I wouldn't like to say against pregnancy, but for the pregnancy. So we need to understand all of these changes so that it would still be considered normal or physiologic. That's why this topic used to be called maternal adaptation pregnancy. So ngayon, maternal physiology. Maternal because it is presumed patient is pregnant. Um, okay. So let's look at the different changes happening in the reproductive tract. Of the obvious, yeah, and the obvious change that you will notice is the enlargement of the uterus. It's an enlargement of the uterus. And you'll note that each myofiber will not increase in number, it will not duplicate, but rather it will increase in size. So there will be hypertrophy rather than hyperplasia. Hyperplasia is an increase in the number of the tissue or number of cells. There is no hyperplasia, but there is an increase in the size. There would be elongation of the fibers as as it is stretched during the course of the pregnancy. Initially, you will find that the uterus is within the pelvic cavity, meaning ladies, when you palpate for the pubic bone, you can do that now if you want to palpate for the pubic bone, the symphysis pubis. Um, you cannot palpate the uterus because it is behind, it is behind the symphysis pubis. So you'll note that yung mga kumadrona, midwives, and they would say that mababa matris niyan. Oh, I'm sorry, for those who cannot understand Tagalog, could you raise an electronic hand if you cannot understand Tagalog? Raise an electronic hand if you cannot understand Tagalog. Otherwise, I would, jump from one. Bagay, dalawa lang alam kong language, Tagalog at English. Sasabihin ko, so that I can, just limit myself to one language or dialect. Dahil lang dalawa alam ko. So I would have an Engalog or a Taglish in some portion of this session. Nonetheless, if you cannot understand anything or it seems to be, you need some explanation, just raise an electronic hand. And I'll try to see if I can answer that. Um, I would have some problems looking at the chat box if I'm presenting. So that would probably be a better. Please, you can type your question in the chat box and then alert me by raising your hand electronically. So automatically I would see that. Okay? Okay. So that ends the lecture. Should you have any questions? Tapos na. Uterus lang ang importante. So by the third month, yan, the uterus has enlarged enough for you to be able to palpate it abdominally. So midwives, mga komodoron, pag sinabing, ang mababa mattress, hindi nila malalaman yun unless you do a pelvic exam, including an internal examination na mababa mattress. So for the ladies who have palpated your symphysis pubis, you wouldn't palpate your uterus. Question is, how big is the uterus pala? In your normal anatomy, what is the size of your uterus? So si Yesa May, yeah, Yesa May. Can you make a fist, Yesa May? Fist. Fist. Can you make a fist? Yan, ganyan. That is, half of that is the size of your uterus, Yesa May. Kalahati niyan, yan ang size ng uterus mo. Unless you have already given birth. Kung nanganak ka na, ganyan kalaki. Yan, okay. So kalahati lang nun. So ladies, you can do that. See if ano ba kalaki uterus mo. Make a fist. Half of that is the size of your uterus. But apparently, if you transpose that, your fist, into your hypogastric area, bakit hindi pantay? Bakit parang mas malaki yung hypogastric area nyo kaysa sa fist? Taba yun, taba. Pandemic-induced fat deposition in the hypogastric area. Kasalanan ng estrogen. But the uterus, yan, reacts similarly. It hypertrophies. Perhaps this is secondary to the hyperestrogenic state. Hyperestrogenic. The placenta will produce so much estrogen. The placenta, no, not necessarily. Yung ovary, nagko-contribute din ng konting estrogen yun. But the great majority of estrogen in the form of estriol is produced by the placenta. So as the need for accommodation of the enlarging products of conception, meaning both the fetus and the placenta, the uterus must enlarge to accommodate it. So at the fourth month, you can now palpate the fundus between the symphysis pubis and the umbilicus. And by the fifth month, you can already palpate the fundus on the level of the umbilicus. So I do hope you realize how important the umbilicus is. It's a landmark, it is a reference mark for many of the tissues that are significant and significant changes happening, or even the procedures, interventions that we make during the course of pregnancy and delivery. So from a 70-gram organ, it can increase to more than a liter, more than 1 kilo. And to be able to accommodate, a big chunk, the whole amniotic fluid together with the baby and the placenta. So it could accommodate 5 to 20 liters of in terms of volume. So ang laki nun, ang laki. So from a pear-shaped organ, eventually it will become globularly enlarged. Globularly enlarged. Yeah, makikita mo yung uterus pag pinihiga ang pasyente, nakaganon yung mount, globularly enlarged. Well, the problem with that is when the woman is lying down on a supine position, the big globular uterus will sit. That 1 kilo would sit on top of the great vessels. That means the abdominal aorta as well as the inferior vena cava. So guess what, Adrian? Which one will be compressed first? It is the thinner inferior vena cava. Bigaya, ipit ang inferior vena cava and it will compromise the venous return. Naalala nyo ba yung your physiology, your cardiac physiology? Favorite nyo yung physiology in first year? If you decrease the venous return, what will happen to the end diastolic volume? Di ba? Ganun. It will decrease. It will decrease the stroke volume. It will decrease the cardiac output. It will decrease the blood pressure. Di ba yung mga equation? Naalala niyo yung equation doon? Hindi niyo naalala? Ba't ako naalala ko pa? Siguro dahil nag-remove ako doon. Yan, tagal na. No, you will, those concepts, those principles, you would apply it here in OB, in the maternal adaptation, because there would be changes on different organ systems. May mga changes doon. Kaya, a good grasp of what is normal in a non-pregnant state would be quite beneficial for you. So if you look at how the uterus is positioned, it is dextro-rotated. That means dextro meaning towards the right. Dextro-rotated. Tama ba? Dextro. Towards the right. And the reason for that is when the woman lies down, diba? So as I mentioned, it sits on the vessels. At the same time, as it enters the pelvis, you have the sigmoid colon towards the left. So, pag medyo, syempre, iikot ng konti yun towards the right because there's sigmoid colon on the left. This is important kasi let's say when we perform the cesarean section, we have to take note whether it is dextro-rotated or the position so that the position of our incision would have to be midline. Okay. So, and this will alter the possible normal anatomical position of the different organs. I might hit the uterine artery if I'm not careful about the position. Very interesting here because as you stretch, the muscles are stretched. Well, it becomes thinner, and you'll be able to palpate the fetus and perform the Leopold's maneuver. So you can indent it, so you can palpate, you can make a let me say figure the shape or the parts of the fetus on a particular segment of the uterus. So palpating and identifying the presentation position of the fetus when we perform the Leopold's maneuver. So the uterus is indentable. Indentable. And if you look at how it is propositioned, you have a hood-like structure on top. Sorry. Madali. So yung muscle, ito yung fundus pear shape, di ba? Ganun, ovoid. Ovoid na pala, malaki na eh. So may hood, yung muscle na kanyan. Tapos yung dito, pababa. Tapos yung sa cervix, ganun. As you can see in the screen. So if everything would contract, if everything would contract, the direction of the force would be downwards. Will be downwards. You know why? Because the cervix, if you get the composition of the cervix, it contains less smooth muscles. Contains less smooth muscles. It's more collagen rather than muscles. And so during the contraction, when these muscles will shorten its size. So there is a push kasi yung sa middle part ang magko-contract dito itong part na to eh. So Yung part nito, sa drawing yan. So ang direction nyo, ang force ng direction nyo pababa. Kasi pag nag-contract itong fundus, pag nag-contract yan, itutulak na to pababa. So ang force niya pababa. Kasi yung muscles dito, mag-short yan eh. Hindi pwedeng mag-contract ito. Kasi pag nag-contract yan, saan lalabas yung pressure? Walang lalabasan yung pressure. Magra-rupture yung uterus. So the uterus will have to give way. It will dilate. So anatomically, the number of fibers, the number of uterine muscles are less in proportion with the collagen fibers or connective tissue. Gets. Kaya ano eh, sa akin, ano yan eh, all of these are all controlled by hormones. Estrogen and progesterone in particular. So that ends the lecture. Yeah. Any questions? Do you want more? More organs? You want the how do you diagnose pregnancy? And what will make you suspect pregnancy? Siyempre, absence of menses, missed menstruation. Second, di ba, pag may naglalakad, ay, ang laki, siguro buntis to. When the uterus becomes globally enlarged, enough for you to be quite evident that there is something growing inside. Yung iba, hindi masyado napapansin eh. These are subtle signs of pregnancy, but all of these changes are, will point to the control of these changes through the different mechanisms, majority of which coming from the hormones. And these hormones are produced by the placenta. Clear all drawings. Now pupunta next. Okay. Kung naalala niyo yung bumibilis to. Mamadali ang aking mouse. Bilisan mo. Something is terribly wrong with the picture. Dominic, what's wrong with the picture? Cute, di ba? Cute. Di ba cute? Kita mo yung paa. Oo. Alam mo kung ano mali dyan, Dominic? Ibig sabihin nun, sinipa nung baby yung uterus na butas. Kaya nakita mo na yung paa doon sa abdominal cavity. May uterus pa eh. Paano makikita yung paa dyan? Cute lang tingnan. Cute. That's pathologic. Clearly, this was Photoshop. Anyway, when you stretch a muscle, regardless of where the muscle is, the tendency is for it to contract. Diba yun yung pag in-stretch mo yung muscle, mag-contract yan. Halimutan ko yung law sa physiology, pero meron yan eh. Ano yung law doon? Shucks, Frank Starling's law ba? Iba yung tawag doon? O Ferguson's reflex. Hindi ko maalala kung anong tawag doon eh. Pero when you stretch a muscle, the tendency is for it to contract. Kaya in the uterus, during the process of stretching of these muscles as the fetus would grow bigger, there would be some irregular contractions. Yet it will not proceed to labor. Kasi pag nag-labor yan, nagko-contract yan, regular contractions na yan. And then consider that's a true labor. So these Braxton-Hicks contractions is a result of that tendency. And we label this as false labor. Yung bang gigising, ito na, nagko-contract na, sumasakit na, punta na tayo sa hospital. Pagdating doon, hindi pa, false labor, uwi muna kayo. So as the uterus would grow, of course, the demand for the blood supply would be tremendous. And dalawa ang blood supply ng uterus, diba? One coming from the hypogastric, that means the internal iliac, going into the uterus. And yung uterine branch niya will eventually anastomose with branches coming from the ovarian artery. Diba yung ovarian artery is a direct branch of the abdominal aorta? Diba? Tama ba yun? Oo, direct branch. So makikita sila sa gilid in the parametrium. It will anastomose each other. So you'll note that tremendous the amount of blood that would flow into the uterus. Why? So that there is sufficient blood supply, there is sufficient oxygenation and nutrients entering the uterus for the baby, for the demands of the baby. Kaya ganun kalaki yan. Imagine almost a liter, 450 to 750 ml per minute. It can approximate the amount of renal blood flow in near term. And you'll note that there's an increased caliber of the blood vessels. And this is also the reason why if we find, let's say, a myoma or a tumor, we rarely would remove it during our cesarean section. We will not remove it, will not touch it. Why? Because of the increased vascular supply, we might encounter hemorrhage. Again, because of the increased flow. It will also give us a clue that something's wrong in that particular area of the uterus when we see these blood vessels along the visceral or the serosa or the covering. May conglomeration dito ng parang varicose veins. At ganun, ba't meron dito? So there must be something. Maybe the placenta is located in that area or the placenta has invaded the myometrium. So yung mga ganung possibility. So by looking at the uterus and the blood vessels, we can meron ng clue. So we spent 20 minutes discussing the uterus and changes in the uterus. And these are the hormones that would increase or stimulate the blood flow. This on the left side that would cause vasodilatation, on the right side vasoconstriction. You'll notice that these are the same hormones and that would, even in the non-pregnant state, ito pa rin yun. Kaya lang, sa pregnancy kasi, kung nag-increase ang estrogen, ang progesterone, nag-increase din relaxin. All the rest, hindi. Pareho lang yan. Yung angiotensin 2, in predisposed individuals, may increase, causing preeclampsia or hypertension in pregnancy. What happens to the cervix? Well, it softens. There's increased vascularity. So if there's increased vascularity, there would be some form of softening, some edema. Edema is in the inflammation or an increase in the water content in the extracellular part or the stroma of the cervix. There is some form of eversion. Nag-evert ng konti yung cervix, exposing the endocervical gland. Ganyan. So, dahil lumalambot siya, ang cervix, when we perform the internal examination, from if you touch your nose, everyone, can you touch your nose? Especially the gentlemen or the ladies. That's the consistency of a cervix that is not pregnant. Okay, not pregnant. But the cervix that is pregnant, the consistency is just like the lips, your lips. So, ano yan? Obviously, after doing the internal exam, you're not sure. Do not touch the cervix and then touch your lips afterwards. Ay, mga ano ba to? Malambot ba to? Pareho ba? Ano ba? So, gagawin yun. Kung gusto niyo bang gawin, tumalikod kayo sa pasyente kasi kadiri naman yung ginagawa nyo. Kaya nga, pasyente nga ako eh. Pag tinignan ko yung cervix tapos nakita ko yung cervix nakangiti. That means a multiparous cervix. Diba? May lumabas ng bata dyan. Nakangiti. Hindi yung pinpoint opening, a nulliparous opening of the cervix. Hindi ganun. Tapos sasabihin sa akin ng pasyente, Sir, Doc, wala pa po akong boyfriend. Oh. Okay, sige. Aling anak mo, lalaki o babae? Kasi kita ko na sa set. Ganun din to eh. Ay, um, so by just examining, there are presumptive evidences. These are not direct evidence of pregnancy, but these are a presumptive sign. Cervix is soft, there must be an increase in estrogen. There could be some bleeding going on. Alam mo ang cervix, yan. Ang lupit ng cervix kasi it should allow entry, siyempre, of sperm. It should allow egress of menstruation. But it should be strong enough to hold the whole 1 kilogram of products of conception. It should not dilate. However, at the right time, it should be able to be soft enough to be able to dilate. So what triggers all of this? Kaya ako nag-OB, I experienced a lot of miracles in OB. Sabi nila, sa Acts of the Apostles lang merong miracles. Hindi every day. You would see miracles. Ito, it's one miracle. Sa OB, daming miracles. So, the cervix should remain closed until the time that it is firm. That means at least 37 weeks age of gestation. Pero during the initial part of labor, when there is contractions already, there could be some bloody show. So this is when the mucus plug is expelled out as the cervix dilates. That mucus plug, which is kaya nga plug kasi it is plugging the cervical os, is expelled out. So these are the signs of the, pag sinabi namin sa pasyente na, kailangan pupunta sa emergency room. Pumunta ka pag meron ka ng bloody show, pag may dugo na lumabas sa'yo, pag may tubig na lumabas. Yan. Pag may regular contractions ka na, regular. Timingan mo pag ito ay every 10 minutes or less ang interval, that's the time for you to go to the hospital. If you take a microscopic cytologic examination of in a glass slide, this is what you're going to see. Beating pattern is predominantly a progesterone effect, while the ferning is basically an effect of the estrogen. So even in the non-pregnant state, we can use this. Glutamine, mas marami, anong dominant hormone. So it's a biologic hormonal assay, so to speak. Okay. There is some form of reaction, and this is secondary to the probability of pregnancy. So this is the Arya-Stella reaction. There is hyperplasia, and there seems to be some hypersecretory appearance of the endocervical cells. Endocervical cells. So these are, again, estrogen induced. As I mentioned, the cervix is slightly everted, and so the exposure of the endocervical canal. So problema to kasi when we perform the pap smear and you scrape the endocervical canal, it would bleed. It would bleed kasi that's quite fragile compared to the exocervix. Di ba? Pag exocervix, anong lining epithelium ng exocervix? Stratified squamous, non-keratinized. Anong lining epithelium ng endocervical canal? Di ba? Columnar cell. So, simple columnar cell. So, pag in-scrape mo yan, magbi-bleed yan compared to the exocervix. The ovaries there's really not much changes happening, except that you will find the dominant follicle that has become the source of the egg that has fertilized. And this is the remnant of the corpus luteum. And the corpus luteum, for the time being, has to be supported for continued progesterone production. So it will bide time until the placenta is able to produce its own progesterone. So what will support the corpus luteum? It will be the HCG. Dapat kasi LH, di ba? LH stimulates the LH surge would be coming from the ovary, di ba? Ang LH, hindi pala. Ang LH pala galing sa pituitary. Tama, di ba? LH, luteinizing hormone, would be coming from the anterior pituitary gland. So after the LH surge, 12 hours after, there would be ovulation. So lalabas na yung egg. What happens to the corpus luteum, the one, the remnants? It produces progesterone. Diba? Produce progesterone. Eh dahil wala ng LH, mamamatay yung corpus luteum. Mababagsak na ang progesterone. At pag bumagsak ang progesterone, tataas ang prostaglandin, magko-constrict ang blood vessel, ano mangyayari? Kakaroon ng menstruation. That's the sequence of events. So if you maintain the levels of progesterone, hindi ka magkakaroon ng menstruation. So if the patient is pregnant, there is continued supply of progesterone. Saan galing yun? Corpus luteum. Ba't di namatay yung corpus luteum? Kasi merong HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. Saan galing yung HCG? Ay galing po yan dun sa placenta na nag-i-implant na. Diba? Ang galing. HCG and LH, if you look at their structure, they're very similar. So there's cross-reactivity between HCG and LH. We'll discuss this further in detail when you go to placental hormones. Nonetheless, the corpus luteum may be quite excitable, becomes hypersensitive to the HCG. Or in some cases, there's so much amount of HCG, dami-dami, maybe secondary to, baka malaki yung placenta, baka naman dalawa yung baby. Okay. And it causes an increase in size. Again, this can be, really it becomes pathologic, really. So kasi it can produce some adrenal, I'm sorry, it could produce some adrenergic, hindi adrenergic, it can cause some, ano yun? Yeah, adrenergic, hindi adrenergic, it could produce some masculinizing hormone. Kasi yung precursors, naalala niyo yung biochemistry, another favorite subject of yours, di ba, in first year, biochemistry, especially yung hormones, yung paano nagpo-produce ng estrogen and progesterone. Dahil precursors galing sa androstenedione, magiging estrogen or testosterone, di ba? Ganun yung, so all the precursors of androstenedione has some androgenic properties. So ganun yun, pag ang laki-laki nung corpus luteum, nag-insist na siya. Although, even there is an increase in testosterone, in these cases, the female fetus is quite protected because the enzymes for conversion is there. Fallopian tube, not much change, except there would be lengthening. You may see some decidualization. This is the endometrium of pregnancy, similar to the Aristella reaction. The vagina again becomes more, increase in blood supply in the area. So the vagina may become more bluish. We call this violet in some cases. We call this the Chadwick sign. Chadwick sign. Pasensya na kayo, I've never meet Dr. Chadwick. Alam ko lang Chadwick dun sa pelikulang sa Chadwick yung puro itim yung tita. Chadwick. There is an increase in vaginal secretion during pregnancy, and this is brought about by, again, a hyperestrogenic state. So the vagina is in a non-pregnant state, the vaginal pH is about 3.8 to 4.2. 3.8 to 4.2. But in a pregnant state, pH can lower down to 3.5. So again, this is because of the production of more lactic acid. In some cases, because of the weight, the uterus may prolapse and may cause some problems because if it prolapses and it becomes bigger, hindi na makakabalik yan sa labas na. Sabagay, wala pa ako napapanak na ganito. Nasa labas na yung uterus. Mrs. Umirika, di ba, paano siya iir? Nasa labas na yung uterus. So, hindi pa nangyayari yun. But it can cause some, I can imagine some considerable pain on the patient. So, ito, ano naman ito, quite rare, yung finding a cystocele. Again, these are all signs of pelvic organ prolapse. The anterior compartment, ang anterior compartment of vagina, yung vagina, anterior yan, bladder na sa taas. Posterior, sa baba niyan, anal canal. So, if there is a relaxation of the fascia on both anterior and posterior, you may have this prolapse of these organs, the form of cystocele and sometimes rectocele. What happens to the breast? Well, it enlarges. There is an increased pigmentation. The glands of Montgomery along the areola becomes more hypertrophic and more pronounced. I remember, minsan naalala ko nung sinasama ako ng mga kabarkada ko na hindi doktor. Pupunta kami sa mga girly bar. Siyempre, nag-uubad na yung mga sumasayaw ng model doon. Tapos sasabihin ko sa kanila, alam mo, 2 na anak niyan. Tapos sumasayaw. Ako yung bad trip sa kanila. Ako yung bad trip. Talaga? Siyempre, nakikita ko yung changes of pregnancy. So this is one of them. I would say more pronounced glands of Montgomery. Sabi ko, nagbuntis na to. May anak na to. Ultimately, the size would go back to its normal size. I mean, the nipple and the areola. The color may fade a little bit. Pero yung magiging pink ulit, hindi. Ako nakikita na. Although there are products in Watsons that you can apply or cream that will make the nipple and the areola pink. Hindi po totoo yun. Tsaka pangit naman yung tsura nun. Ang itim mo tapos nipple mo pink. It may become quite pathologic when there is an increase really in the size. Naalala ko isang patient, sabi niya, Doc, buti pa nung pregnant ako, yung cup A ko nagiging cup B. Yung size ng breast. This is also the reason why there might be some tenderness on the breast. So one sign of pregnancy. Again, another presumptive evidence of pregnancy. When there is some form of breast tenderness, breast enlargement. So you need to rule in pregnancy at this time, especially accompanied by amenorrhea or periods of missed menstruation. As was mentioned, there will be an increase in pigmentation. So in some areas, especially on the abdomen, you may have stretch marks. This is strea gravidarum. There is something genetic, something to do with the collagen fibers, nothing to do with the itchiness and the camots. Although, of course, we call it stretch mark because as it stretches. There are no known creams or any lotion, oil that can prevent it. Wala. Some are just simply blessed with a good variety of collagen fibers. Yung iba, most of the products that I know that are effective is just to change the color after pregnancy. After pregnancy. But you still have some evidence of that. Pero meron talagang ibang pasyente na wala talagang evidence whatsoever. Wala talagang stretch marks. The muscles may eventually loosen up and it can be relaxed too much that it can widen. Um, just like in this case, makikita mo yun eh. There's thesis recti on the right side of the screen. Yung ganun. So, paano mawawala ito? Tanong, paano mawawala yan? Surgically, you scrape off the skin. Abrasion. Tapos let set of epithelium would grow. Sakit naman yan, laking portion. So, hindi. So yung hyperpigmentation, we call it cloasma or melasma, gravidarium or pregnancy. So parang siyang parang freckles, but this time these are all more brownish. The linea alba becomes more pronounced, becomes darker in color. So nagiging linea nigra instead of a linea alba. Dati tinitingnan ko to eh. During my younger residency days, I would look at this. Kung straight line, sabi ko, yung linya nigra niya, straight line, babae. Pag lumiko, lalaki, yung kanyang yung gender reveal ba. And after some time, walang correlation. Kaya sinasabi nila, pag maitim daw, yung kilikili, yung lalaki, they attribute that to the amount of fetal testosterone. Pero no evidence to support that claim. Nevertheless, you find that there would be, this is some of the, there's an increase in the melanocytes. So the same way there would be vascular changes, vascular spiders, angiomas, you may have palmar erythema, again, all signs of pregnancy. Again, brought about by estrogen and HCGs. Now, changes in the hair, especially in the postpartum period, isang pagkamot na ganun, dami nalalaglag. Well, it just so happens that this hair would be on the same cycle, it's part of the cycle. Pero meron na siyang alopecia, a part that is without hair. That can be considered as pregnancy can be one of the causes. But in many instances, it is stress that would cause alopecia. So those are the physical changes that you note during pregnancy. Again, you'll have to ask, are these necessary for pregnancy as a form of adaptation? Like, for example, the breast becoming bigger. We understand the uterus becoming bigger. We understand that the cervix has to have some form of changes because it should be tight enough, strong enough, but soft enough to be able to dilate when the time comes for labor. We can all understand that those anatomic changes. But what about metabolic changes? Again, the direction here and the purpose of these changes is for an increase in the function of the placenta to increase the nutrients coming in to facilitate the exit of waste products coming from the fetus. So yun yung metabolic changes that's happening. Obviously, there's increased demand for calories. As you can see in the table, from 85 kilocalories, it can increase to as much as 475 kilocalories per day. So this is the additional energy needed. And this can translate, this will translate to the weight gain during pregnancy. As you can see in the first trimester, first 3 months, you don't find any significant body weight changes or increase. But during the second and third trimester, ang tinitingnan namin dito usually is about 1 pound a week. Okay, 1 pound a week in the second to the third trimester. So that's the rate of, kasi pag divide mo yung trimester, that would be 13, tama ba? 13 times 3, 39. Mga ganun. 13, 14 weeks per trimester. So, meron kang at least 25 weeks gaining weight 1 pound a week for 25 weeks. So, yun yung average weight gain ng isang pregnant patient. About 25, 26 pounds throughout the course of pregnancy. So the weight gain here is again due to the calories requirement. So kakain yan, nagbibigyan ng appetite. Hindi naman pwede kumain kung wala kang appetite. So there will be an increased appetite to eat. You'll note that pregnant patients would like to eat sweets, tamis, ice cream, soft drinks, mga ganyan, cakes. Because of the demand, increased demand for calories. Yun ang masarap eh. Yun ang kakainin niya. Unfortunately, it is also the determinant. Sugar is or glucose is determinant of the weight of the baby, of the birth weight of the baby. So the more sugar taken, the bigger would be the baby. To the point that it can become too large, we call it macrosomia, that vaginal delivery may be impossible. So the weight gain is due to aside from the calories that was taken, that will include the water too. Yung water, increase yung water retention, there is increase in the breast, lalaki yung uterus, and so forth. So yung weight gain niya mga 25, 26. Dito nga 27.5 pounds. So tignan niyo yung first trimester, 1 pound lang. Pagdating ng second at third trimester, 1 pound a week. Kaya during the prenatal care, we can measure the weight gain and see whether it is just right for the trimester. Again, as I mentioned, when the woman is lying down, the increasing size of the uterus will compress on the inferior vena cava. So there would be partial vena cava occlusion, and there would be a decrease in venous return. So the fluid will remain in the extremities. So nagkakaroon ng pitting edema. So you find this in women who are standing for quite a long time, sales ladies, security guards, nakatayo parati. So what we do is recommend that they would sit down, raise their legs, especially in the afternoon after a long, or they can take some breaks, take some breaks in between, raise their legs, again, to increase the venous return. What about protein? Well, there is an increase in protein metabolism. There's a demand for amino acids. Again, because siyempre, the structures that are formed, protein structures, enzymes, hormones, these are all necessary. So the requirement for protein increases, especially in late pregnancy. So carbohydrate metabolism, ano ba ito? Nagmamadali ah. In carbohydrate metabolism, sorry. So there is a mild fasting, hypoglycemia. Kwento ko na lang. there is a mild fasting hypoglycemia, meaning pag walang kinakain yung pasyente, buntis, babagsak ang blood sugar. Babagsak. Pag kumain naman, sobra-sobra. Biglang mag-shoot up ang ano niya, ang kaya tawag nila postprandial hyperglycemia. Mag-shoot up. This is exaggerated. No, exaggerated yan. Bakit? So that there would be hyperinsulinemia. Para mas maraming insulin. O, sige. Bakit kailangan mas maraming insulin? Eh, tumaas yung blood sugar eh. Kailangan pumasok yung cells, ay yung sugar sa loob ng cells. Diba? That's the work of the insulin. Ito ngayon, eh bakit sobra-sobra yung sugar? Bakit? Ito ang mas maganda. Para mas maraming sugar pumasok sa uterus at pumunta sa placenta. Diba? Galing ano? Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo, the changes are really for the baby. So, ngayon naman ayaw mandar. Pato. What else? Ano pa ba? Accelerated starvation. Kasama na yun. You'll discuss this more in detail when you discuss the placental hormones. In particular, HPL, human placental lactogen, and leptin. Suffice it to say, there would be an increase in fat metabolism as well. Kasi pag tinignan nyo, carbohydrates for 4 calories per gram ba? O 4 kilocalories per gram. Ganon din ang protein 4. Ang fat 9. 9 eh. So it carries a bigger pack of calories ang fats. Kaya ano yan eh, that is a more efficient storage of energy. Ito nagsikat ito for quite some time because some women apparently stop losing weight after diet na yan, tapos nag-exercise na siya, ganda ng weight loss niya. Pero palitin na certain portion, ba, nagpa-plateau na yung kanyang ano. And they noted that these women would have such plateau, would have an increased level of leptin. Well, they also found this in pregnant patients. There is a slight increase. Again, it favors really fat deposition, and ultimately there will be a source of calories when the need arises during, let's say, maternal starvation. So importante ito in making sure calories would be available in the mother for supply to the fetus. There will be other adipocytokines. That means these are messengers. So adeponectin, you have ghrelin, and bisfatin. Galing ano? Bisfatin. Not really as important as leptin. What about electrolyte and mineral metabolism? You'll note that in normal pregnancy, parang bakit mas marami sodium ang nare-retain kaysa sa potassium? And this is what's going to happen because of that, water retention. When you retain sodium, you retain water. Why do you need to retain water? Because of the increased demand for different substances entering and exiting. There is an increase in GFR, glomerular filtration rate. However, yung reabsorption is different. What else? Calcium is increased. Again, as a source. Calcium demand is increased, again, as a source of for the fetus. Pero meron ding requirement ng mother. So kailan kailangan ng calcium sa fetus? Pag nagkakaroon na ng calcium deposition dun sa kanyang bones o bone development. And this would happen on the 4th month of pregnancy. 4th month of pregnancy. Kaya, hindi mo kailangan magbigay ng calcium at the time that the patient is diagnosed with as pregnant in the first month. 2 weeks pa lang, nag-pregnancy test, 2 weeks miss period, nag-pregnancy positive, bibigyan ka agad ng calcium. Hindi pa dun yung requirement niya. Requirement dun sa fetus on the 4th month. Sometimes as early as the 3rd month, binibigyan na nila. Pero not on the 1st and the 2nd month because it's not necessary. No, it's not necessary. The iodine also is increased requirement again as a result of increase in the basal metabolic rate during pregnancy. This is also important because cases of iodine deficiency may cause hypothyroidism, congenital hypothyroidism among the fetuses. And this may be, as a result of this, siyempre, mental retardation, slow growth, slow learning for the offspring. Sa thyroid, punta tayo sa thyroid. Hematologic changes, obviously there would be hypervolemia. There will be an increase of at least a liter of blood during the course of pregnancy. So, ito yung circulating volume, umiikot from the heart to the different organ system and back to the heart. An increase of 1 liter. So yung from 5 liters, magiging 6 liters yun. Bakit? Obvious ba? So that the uterus will have more supply and therefore more oxygen and more nutrients. Amniotic fluid is produced also, again, to protect the fetus at the same way that the mother would have some form of edema or water retention. So pag nag-dilate ngayon, nag-increase ang volume, paano yung concentration ng RBC? Di bababa yung concentration. So, papansin nyo, during the 2nd trimester, there seems to be a physiologic anemia. Parang bumaba yung concentration. At the same time, it is about this time when the mother would begin to produce a requirement for more RBCs. So, nagkakaroon ng physiologic anemia. At the same time, there is increased demand for iron in this case. So dito ngayon magbibigay ng iron, again, on the 3rd month of pregnancy. Saka ka magbigay ng iron. So during the prenatal care, depende sa requirement kung ano yung ibibigay mo nutrients. Ito yung changes na nangyayari. So 3rd month, you begin to give iron. Kasi yung demand niya. Pagdating ng 4th month, dagdag ka na ng calcium. So now you know at least 2 of the minerals or vitamins that will be necessary during the prenatal care, 3rd and 4th month respectively. So dito nagkakaroon, as I mentioned, there's a dilutional type of anemia. Dilutional, diluted. Is yung denominator mo eh. So kung solution yan, ang concentration will decrease. So most of the iron requirements are used again in the production of the fetal RBC as well as maternal RBC. Tinitingnan ko kasi yung utility of measuring hepcidin. We seldom, hindi pa siya nagagamit. In other words, we normally just simply look at the amount of RBC and the concentration in terms of hemoglobin and hematocrit, and we give the necessary iron supplementation during this time. Titingnan ko yung yung the amount of this table is important. Bakit? Take a look. T helper 2 cells suppression. Ano ba siya? I think this is cell mediated immunity. Um, the T cytotoxic cells, T helper cells, again, it's necessary. You need to suppress kasi otherwise the pregnancy, the mother will reject the foreign antigen from the fetus. Kasi syempre, iba yung DNA, iba yung karyotype, iba yung these are foreign antigens as the baby would present. So there has to be a mechanism for the mother not to reject the fetus. So ito yun. So yung cell-mediated immunity is a little bit depressed. Kaya in infections, like for example, COVID infection, the risk of getting the infection is the same. Pareho, pregnant and non-pregnant. But once a pregnant patient gets COVID, the chance of from a mild, moderate to becoming severe is the same as if the patient is high risk, just like an immunocompromised patient, diabetic patient, elderly, morbidly obese, or those that with HIV. So ito yung mga so kaya naging high risk ang pregnancy during the COVID. Again, because the tendency is for it to go into the severe form. So na-IC yan. Pero yung risk of transmission, pareho lang, walang increase. Kaya napasok din ng pregnancy sa high risk to receive the vaccine much earlier than the rest of the population. Take a look at the CD4 T lymphocytes decreased, cell-mediated. Tapos, ito rin yung tinitingnan, di ba? For response, if the patient would need antiretroviral drugs for HIV cases in CD8, CD4 lymphocytes ratio. So there are about some inflammatory markers, leukocytes, an increase in WBC. And these are all normal during pregnancy, even if, siyempre, dapat hindi umabot ng Dati kasi pag more than 10,000, abnormal na non-pregnant. Dito kahit lumabas may 15,000, that's still normal. Kaya nga you might mistake this patient having infection. Kunyari, patient is febrile. Kunyari lang nilalagnat. Tapos kumuha ka ng WBC count sa blood. Nakita mo may leukocytosis. Infection o normal? So problema yan, if the patient is pregnant, you cannot know which is which. But I would go clinical. I would think that the leukocytosis is brought by the infection. Otherwise, these patients will not have some fever. So there are some inflammatory markers. Again, as was mentioned, these are not specific because these can also be increased during the course of pregnancy. So ang hirap yan all of these markers. So hindi siya specific, no? For infections. Pregnancy pwede rin tumaas yan. What about some hematologic changes? Well, the table is also quite important because take a look at those that are increased. Increase ang clotting factors. Decreased ang clotting factors 11 and 13. Increase ang fibrinogen. Pero decrease naman ang platelet. Ano ba to? So it seems to counteract each other. What is the net effect? There is no change in the clotting time. Wala. Pareho lang. Pero bakit marami? Diba? Bakit marami? Siguro in time during when we discuss pathologic obstetrics, you'll understand bakit some of these are increased, some are decreased. Nonetheless, the net effect is there's really not much change. in the function. In the function. Um, the spleen will increase again because there is an increased breakdown of RBC. There is an increased breakdown of RBC because there is an increased production of RBC during the whole course of pregnancy. So this is something that is physiologic and not be considered as abnormal. So you might see some form of splenomegaly, pero of course hindi naman siya ganun kalaki. Now, the effect on the cardiovascular system is very important. The number one cause of death in the Philippines, maternal mortality, that is hemorrhage, postpartum hemorrhage, secondary to uterine atony. And we need to understand the cardiovascular system. For causes of maternal death, other than obstetric causes, kasi hypertension is also one of them as a cause of death, would be cardiac diseases. In fact, for those with severe form of cardiac or heart diseases, pregnancy is contraindicated because the fatality rate would reach as high as 50%. So let's look at how the cardiovascular system adapts to pregnancy. Because of the increasing size of the uterus, it presses on the diaphragm. Diaphragm presses on the thoracic cavity. So you might have some shortening on the length of the thoracic cavity, including the heart. So there's some tilting of the heart towards the left. The cardiac silhouette seems to be bigger. Kasi pumunta sa kaliwa eh. But again, these are not as significant as a cause for alarm in the function of the cardiac or the stroke volume. So there is some shift kasi nga nag-change ng position more towards the left. You might find some left axis deviation on ECG. That's still normal. Because an increase in venous return, so ejection fraction may be increased too. So you may hear systolic murmurs. That's fine, 90%. And you might hear some soft diastolic murmur. These are feeling as it feels the right side of the heart. So normal pa rin yun. Pero pag naging 3/6 yan, ay hindi na normal yun. Ay, mga 2/6, pwede pa yun. Pero yung mga 3/6, ay hindi na normal yun. Yung rating ng murmurs. So there is an exaggerated splitting of the heart sounds. Kasi nga mas malaki, so yung travel nyo, yung pag open, close. So, yun nga, exaggerated nga. So again, if you increase the blood volume, increase the blood volume, so ano mangyayari? Increase venous return. Increase venous return, there would be an increase in stroke volume. Increased stroke volume will increase the cardiac output. Okay, it will increase the cardiac output. Do you expect an increase in blood pressure? No. Why not? Kasi the vascular resistance or the total peripheral resistance would go down. So nababalance out yun, di ba? Blood pressure is equal to cardiac output times total peripheral resistance. Nag-increase ang cardiac output, bumagsak ang resistance, the net effect on the BP is none. Diba? So walang effect sa blood pressure. Except in the mid-trimester, when apparently there is a marked decrease in total peripheral resistance. So doon medyo bababa ng konti ang blood pressure doon sa mid-trimester. Heart rate is increased as well. Could be secondary to some progesterone activity. Okay, so again, this table is important because it summarizes what is increased and what is decreased. and what is the net effect. Suffice it to say that the increase in the volume, circulating blood volume. So bakit kaya nag-increase ang circulating blood volume? As I mentioned, need for the fetus. However, it also prepares the expected blood loss after the delivery of the placenta. So pag deliver ng placenta, the venous are the venous are still open, the sinuses are open, and that would cause some form of bleeding. And the only way to stop that is to make the muscles, the uterus contract. Because you know that these vessels are intertwined or in between these are in between the myofibers. So if you contract the myofibers, you constrict these blood vessels, you stop the bleeding. So meron ka ng 1 liter of blood na pwedeng itanggal. So kung mga 500 ml mo wala on the average, that's perfectly fine. But that 1 liter becomes significant clinically in patients with cardiac disease. Kasi that is an extra demand for the heart, yung 1 liter na yan na umiikot, dagdag. So makapansin natin na when that 1 liter is no longer needed postpartum, this is the time when the heart is at risk for failure. So we need to diurese the patient to remove this excess fluid. We have been telling you about this, the supine hypotension syndrome. Again, because of the decrease in venous return, there would be a slight decrease in blood pressure, and that would mean less perfusion to the uterus. And there could be some fetal heart rate changes, as you see in the electronic fetal monitor. Now, the renin-angiotensin system, renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, number one, it is stimulated. So there will be angiotensin, there will be vasoconstriction, there will be an increase in aldosterone as well as renin. So on the net effect, there is sodium reabsorption, water is reabsorbed, there is water retention. However, in the second trimester, as I mentioned, there seems to be a refractoriness to the angiotensin. Apparently, at this time, blood vessels doesn't seem to mind the increase in angiotensin, angiotensin 2 in particular. So hindi siya nagko-constrict. But this will only happen in the mid-trimester. What else? Sir, good to know. But suffice it to say, you have to identify that when you stretch, it will contract. But only at the time that it is needed. So ito hindi, it balances each other. The same way, endothelin 1, so potent vasoconstriction. So kailan natin makikita to? In cases where there is increased preeclampsia, risk of preeclampsia or hypertension in pregnancy. It has also been, nakikita nito for preterm labor. Kasi nagko-contract yung muscles because of this. This can be balanced out by the increase in nitric oxide naman. So ang tanong, how can we give nitric oxide? Hindi, it's naturally produced. Prostaglandin is available, but prostaglandin comes in many forms. One form maybe causes vasoconstriction, the other can cause vasodilatation. One can cause contraction of the myometrium, one can cause relaxation of the myometrium. So it has to balance each other. So during the first 3 trimesters, not in labor, the uterus should be able to have the prostaglandin necessary for it to remain relaxed. Pero during the course at magle-labor na siya, kailangan mag-increase naman yung prostaglandin that will cause it to constrict. So, paano? Well, we will go into that when we talk about parturition and when we go to labor. What about the respiratory tract? Obviously, there will be changes in the volumes of the lungs. Why? Kasi nga tumataas yung diaphragm. So mako-compromise yung thoracic cage. As you can see on the picture on the right, the diaphragm pushes the thoracic cavity. So the AP diameter and the transverse diameter may increase. Pero yung length niya may decrease. Okay. So diaphragm increases by 4 centimeters. At pag pinush yan, nag-widen yung subcostal angle. Hindi yung whoop. Ito hindi. Pa-flatten eh. Pa-flatten siya. So the circumference increases by 6 centimeters. Increase yung AP diameter at transverse. What else? Take a look at this and tell me what is decreased. What is decreased? You notice that the reserve capacity is decreased. Reserve volume is decreased. Yung mga reserve niya na decrease. Pero yung everyday function niya is still the same during the pregnant state. Tingnan mo yung decrease na kung ano. Functional residual capacity, reserve yan. Residual volume, pinatitira o nati-decrease. Total pulmonary resistance. Mas maganda nga yun. That means more blood will go into the pulmonary circulation. Mas maganda nga yun. So, net effect. Yan. Vital capacity, di pareho lang. The maximum breathing capacity, di pareho lang, no change. Meaning, in the normal everyday activity, there will be no change. But, yan, given strenuous exercise, affected na yan. Kasi nga, yung residual niya, nag-decrease na yung reserve niya. So, do we recommend exercises for patients who become pregnant? Ang sagot dyan, if she has been exercising aerobics, then she should continue it. But yung mga aerobic exercises, kung mag-i-start siya during pregnancy, we usually would ask them to shy away from it, especially as the age of gestation progresses. Kasi nga, patients would have fatigue. We see fatigability, there could be maternal exhaustion. Bakit nag-i-increase ang respiratory rate when patient becomes pregnant? Why? Number one, because the progesterone increases the basal metabolic rate. The temperature increases by 1 degree Fahrenheit. Kaya paypay ng paypay yung buntis. Ba't kailangan mag-increase ang basal metabolic rate? Mas kailangan yan to produce more energy for the fetus. So all systems are increased in terms of its efficiency. All. If there is an increase in need for energy, the net effect of that, there will be increase in carbon dioxide. And when there is increase in carbon dioxide, this has to be expelled. Right? This has to be expelled for both mother and fetus. Sa fetus, Madi-dissolve muna yung carbon dioxide. Dissolve yung carbon dioxide niya eh. So, bababa ang pH. Lalabas ngayon yan dadaan sa placenta into the maternal circulation. Yung carbon dioxide kakapit yan sa hemoglobin. Tapos pagdating ngayon sa lungs, it has to be dissociated, di ba? From the yung carbon dioxide. Now, to drive the carbon dioxide, to increase the pH, you need to blow off carbon dioxide. Blow it off. So, higher concentration to lower concentration. Di ba? Alam naman natin yun, yung gradient na yun. Higher concentration in the blood to what? To the lungs, lower concentration. So how do we lower down the concentration of carbon dioxide in the lungs? Edi mag-hyperventilate ka to blow off the carbon dioxide. Galing. Kaya may physiologic Disney kasi nga in an effort to to achieve the acid-base balance. There is also an interesting fact because again, if you still remember the dissociation constants, di ba na shift to the left, shift to the right, and pH, temperature, and nakalimutan ko isa eh, 3D something eh. Yun yung that will cause a shift of the dissociation curve. So pH, acidic, temperature higher, and the amount of 2, 3, anyway, at least you know that again it has to drive off the carbon dioxide to maintain the acid-base balance. Okay, what else? What about kidneys? Well, we need to blow it off. What? The bicarb. We need to retain the bicarb in an effort to again balance the metabolic acidosis going on. How do we expel? Again, increase the glomerular filtration rate. And increase yung circulation eh. Mag-increase din yung GFR dito. There is some form of hydronephrosis, more on the right side. And reason for that is, again, because of the sigmoid being compressed by the uterus. So, and there is compression of the right ureter. I'm sorry, left ureter. On the left ureter. Eh bakit sa right yung hydronephrosis? Paki-explain nga nito, bakit ganito? So instead of the sigmoid colon compressing it, it provides a cushion. Kasi pareho malambot yun eh. Pareho malambot. So malambot yung colon. So hindi niya masyado nako-compress yung left side. So comparing it with the right side, parang mas naiipit yan, ang right ureter compared to the left ureter. Hindi ko alam yung eksakto ilang percentage before labeling it as hydronephrosis. They would measure the kidney size and dilatation, especially in the renal calyx. What else? Ito lang tatandaan, GFR is increased. Do you increase the amount of protein excreted? The answer, no. If you find protein in urine, that is abnormal. Okay? So if there is proteinuria, that is abnormal. If you find glucosuria or sugar in the urine, Kung mga +1 lang yan, that can be considered as something physiologic. As we mentioned, there is some hyperglycemia going on, especially postprandial, right after eating, and that can be seen on the urinalysis. Ano pa ba? So a serum creatinine of 0.9 milligrams per deciliter suggests underlying renal disease and should prompt further evaluation. Okay. So proteinuria, which means there is an increase in protein. Bakit? Breakdown. So ano ba normal urinalysis? I mentioned glucosuria may not be abnormal, pero wag lang siya lumampas ng +1. Proteinuria is always abnormal. When you look at the kasi minsan makikita mo doon ilan ang RBC, ilan ang WBC or pus cells per high power field. When you find RBC or hematuria, it's usually a contamination. Except if patients are complaining of pain, right flank pain, or symptomatic patients like pyelonephritis or even lithiasis or renal stones. So if there is significant proteinuria, it means more than 300 milligrams per day. Usually that's quite significant related to hypertension in pregnancy or preeclampsia. Importante dito. So sa WBC or pus cells, if it's more than 10,000, I'm sorry, if there's more than 10 pus cells per high power field, that means there's a urinary tract infection going on. In a non-pregnant state, babalik lang ako dito, hindi kasi nakasulat. In a non-pregnant state, pag more than 5, sa babae, talking about women, pag more than 5, that's the only time that we label it as possible cystitis or urinary tract infection. Pero pag buntis yung pasyente, sometimes this is allowed and we only treat patients more than 10. Kasi studies will show that yung 10 is a cut-off representing 100,000 colony counts. So ito yung when the procedure of choice is a urine culture. Pero mahal saka matagal. So we rely on the pus cells concentration. So yun yung ginamit namin cut-off of 10 in pregnant patients. What about GIT system? Interestingly, gastric emptying time is unchanged, but it is prolonged during labor. Is this important? Of course, it's important. Why? For anesthesia purposes. Because if the patient would receive general anesthesia, it might will decrease the gag reflex. You know what the gag reflex is? When you vomit, the tendency is for you to expel it out. Otherwise, to cough it out. Otherwise, it may enter the trachea. It may enter the trachea. And that can cause aspiration pneumonia. And since the gastric contents are acidic, it may cause chemical irritation on the respiratory tract. So, question here is, it becomes more troublesome if the vomitus will contain food particles. Kasi pwede mag-obstruct yun sa pag nag-aspirate. So in conditions where there is a possibility of a general anesthesia, possibility lang that general anesthesia may be needed, then we should make sure that there is nothing in the stomach to be vomited. So kailangan tingnan natin yung gastric emptying time. So kung 3-4 hours siya in non-pregnant state, aba kung in labor, it may extend to 6 to 8 hours. So dapat NPO siya, natin per OREM, for at least 6 hours. At least 6 hours when the patient is in labor. Otherwise, you increase the possibility of aspiration in cases of general anesthesia. Ito lang during labor. What is also significant here is when an increasing size of the uterus presses on the stomach, yan, it increases the pressure inside the stomach. And patients with tawag nito, increase yung reflux into the esophagus, that would cause some heartburn or pyrosis. So parating masakit ang tiyan niyan, hyperacidity. And then you couple that with the fact that these patients would take iron, causing further increase in gastric irritation. Talagang magkakaroon talaga ng heartburn yan, mga pasyente. So these are the changes that would happen, and you have to take note of this. So again, altered position of the stomach, tapos lower ang esophageal sphincter tone, increase yung pressure sa stomach, tapos yung peristalsis, yung movement niya, magdi-decrease din pababa. So all this may be, all contributory to an increase in hyperacidity as well as gastric esophageal reflux or GERD. What do we do with hemorrhoids? As was mentioned, there is an increase of venous the supply in the pelvic region. There is also the problem of compression of the interior vena cava. So lahat yun affected. Yung paa affected. Even those in the rectum. Saan ba yung babalik? Diba? Sa inferior mesenteric. Even in the middle rectal yata. I'm not sure about kung saan galing. Pero dahil may constriction doon, nagkakaroon ng varicose veins sa anal sphincter, and that would cause a hemorrhoid. So hemorrhoids are simply exaggerated dilatation. It's like varicose veins in the rectal canal. How do we do? Problema yan kasi masakit lalo na if it's really congested. We don't operate on these patients. We simply put them on a hot seats bath just to make sure that these do not harden, so that they can reposition the hemorrhoids back to the internal area. So what about enzymes, liver? There is an increase in alkaline phosphatase. But then if you're going to take a look at this, it only becomes significant when in cases where there would be especially if the fetus, kasi pag-ano yun, it can you might misinterpret this, especially in cases of preterm labor and preterm delivery. Because of the high estrogen content in the maternal circulation, there can be an increased probability of cholecystitis and cholelithiasis in pregnancy. And this is brought about by a decreased contractility in the gallbladder, leading to an increased residual volume. This is also induced by progesterone because progesterone has some relaxation induced effects. Ano pa ba? And you all know what the function of the gallbladder is. It's basically to contain the bile, and bile is necessary for fat digestion. No? Necessary for fat digestion. Kailangan yun sa pregnancy. Again, diba, towards storing fat. Importante sa kanya. As far as the endocrine system is concerned, the pituitary gland increases. As you can imagine, there will be an increase in the amount of hormones produced. You'll notice a marked increase in the thyroid gland. The production is increased. Thyroid hormones are increased. Kaya nga, di ba, na-explain natin kanina, there is an increase in iodine requirement as well. Again, it's necessary again to protect the fetus. One, to increase the basal metabolic rate. And second, to protect the fetus. Ano pa ba? Increase in parathyroid hormone. Again, continuous supply of calcium. Yung cortisol may play a role kasi in labor induction or in cases of parturition. Ano pa ba? Again, aldosterone secretion is increased. Again, sodium reabsorption. Ano pa ba? Androstenedione is increased again because this is the precursor for estrogen and testosterone. So what happens to the thyroid hormone? Basically, there is an increase in hormonal production. There increase in TBG, thyrotropin binding globulin, T4 and T3. Net effect, there is no change in free T3, T4. Kasi dumami naman yung carrier protein niya. And there is no significant thyromegaly. Function is increased. The T3, T4 do not cross the placenta. However, TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone, may cross the placenta. So, siguro yun ang nagiging problema dun sa fetus. There's a nice picture of the ebbs and flow of the thyroid hormone in your textbook. Kindly refer to that. Because there is a window where there seems to be an unrecognized subclinical hypothyroidism. That it becomes quite important to recognize this. Kasi nga, as I mentioned, we'd like to lower the incidence of congenital hypothyroidism. Pakitingin na lang ng table, yung graph na yun. Ano pa ba? Iodine status, parathyroid hormone, adrenal glands. I think we are okay. What about the musculoskeletal system? As the weight of the uterus becomes heavier, we need to compensate. How do we compensate for the weight? Otherwise, you will fall forward because of the weight. So, gagawin mo, hihilahin mo yung weight backwards. So, nangyayari, there will be lordosis. And that causes more back pains. Kaya pag naglakad yung pasyente yung buntis, especially in the last trimester. Ika yan. Sumasakit ng lupod. So how do we, well, we tell them to lie down. There's an occasion for them to lie down and rest the back muscles. If they're going to lie down, left lateral recumbent position with a better alternative. Yun, ang importante dito. Sa not much clinical significance to this. Kasi kaya ako sinasabi ito kasi even if there are changes here, the clinical utility or significance doesn't seem to be as high as the rest of the other changes in the other systems. Okay, any questions? In postpartum blues, has been equated actually with even pre-pregnancy. There are some women that are really prone to these situations, prone sa nervous. So history nervous breakdown. So pagdating during the postpartum period, yun, na-enhance yung depression na yun. Consider this. Patients' physical makeup. They seem to be uglier. May itim, the shape of the body, feeling of uneasiness, there is hypoventilation, init, the way they walk, they would feel ugly. Tapos yung asawa, hindi pa sa sinasamahan. Nahayaan lang na ganun. Tapos pag nanganak, wala din during labor, wala din yung husband. So in these cases, yung uncertainty of the future for the newborn becomes manifested. And these are more common among women who are single moms in postpartum blues. Kasi nga, at siya kasama, nag-iisa, paano na to? So how do we prevent this from happening? Again, at the moment of pregnancy, sabi nga nila, it takes a village and a community to raise up a child. So it's, sa isipin mo, it's not just a family, it has to be a community. So yung sa newborn na yan, the moment the patient is diagnosed as pregnant, kailangan ng family support. Kailangan ng family support. One, because prenatal care would be adequate. Again, studies have shown already that single parents, single moms usually would conceal the pregnancy and will not have a prenatal checkup until such time that she can no longer conceal it or hide it. Saka lang niya magpapa-prenatal checkup. So yung 1 or 2 months of not receiving the adequate nutrition or supplementation may be critical in the first 1,000 days of life. So doon nagsisimula yung family support, accompanying to the prenatal checkup, to the financial support, ability to take in the necessary multivitamins, iron and calcium, including folic acid, work up or laboratory examinations. Di lalo na kung pangalawa to, pangatlo, at single mom. So, you know, taking care of a pregnant patient, yes, it is something physiological, not a disease. But it takes a big demand on the body of the woman. So, kailangan talaga ng support. So, hindi lang physical, kundi mental din. I'll end here. And should you have any questions, be sure to ask this in the SGD. Ayaw sagutin dito. If you have questions, I think you still have some time for you to ask questions.